Hello, hello, hello. It's Friday. It's the last Friday before Christmas and then New Year's. Lots of holidays coming up. I know this time of year can be full of stress and fun and emotions and even sometimes grumpiness. And so I think that this might be really useful today, particularly when criticism is coming up in your relationship, particularly from your partner's side. Like if your partner is being a little bit more critical than usual or just tends to be someone who is kind of critical, I think this will help you a lot in handling that. So, and this is inspired by just a common theme. This has been coming up a lot lately in sessions with clients, which is that I've been hearing the words, I need to stand up for myself more, come out of my clients' mouths, right? And you know, standing up for ourselves is something that we were taught, right? To not be passive doormats that, you know, our men can walk all over, right? Like, we don't want that. And I never, ever, ever want you to feel like someone your partner can just trample on, right? That's never, ever what I'm encouraging or would ever suggest. So know that. But it's important to understand that, like, when we say standing up for ourselves, what we actually usually mean is like fighting back. Like not letting your partner say mean things, not letting him treat you a certain way, you know, not even like not letting him have negative opinions about us. And that's where we need to be careful because we really don't have control over what someone else thinks of us, right? We don't have control over how someone else treats us. And like furthermore, right, like the instinct to defend ourselves actually usually pits us against our partner further. Does that make sense? Like if he says something critical and you like lash back or just say like, that's not true, right? Or like, well, you blah, 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 right? Like that just gets us into these little fights. And it actually oftentimes will up the disrespect from his end or the contempt or the criticism. Like it will up all those things that we'd rather he isn't doing in the first place when we get defensive. It certainly doesn't get us feeling closer to him, right? So I hope that this doesn't feel like too big of an idea. What I'm going to be sharing, it's kind of a little heady compared to some of the things that I offer, but I think it's really important because it's been coming up so often. I really wanted to talk about it a little bit today. And this isn't the whole story, right? So this is just a little piece that will help you if your partner does get critical or sort of not so nice with you sometimes. Yeah, so that was an aside. But here's the thing, being defensive, if you get defensive back when he's critical, it's actually, defensiveness is always a sign of insecurity, right? It's not a sign of security and strength. So I'm just going to repeat that. Being defensive is actually a sign of insecurity, not security and strength. We oftentimes feel like defending ourselves is strong, right? That's a strong thing, right? But that's actually opposite is oftentimes the case. And on top of that, like standing up for yourself, right, it actually doesn't mean disproving their opinion or defending yourself. I think we get ourselves confused. We feel like we need to defend in order to stand up for ourselves, but that's actually not what standing up for ourselves really is. So what if standing up for yourself actually meant approving of yourself and loving yourself no matter what your partner's thinking of you or no matter what anyone's thinking of you? Like approving of yourself so much that you're unafraid of hearing the truth that could be contained in their criticism. that make sense? Like being so secure in yourself, so solid in your sense of approval for yourself, that you are open to hearing the not so wonderful, perfect things about yourself, right? So that you then could grow into an even better version of yourself. Is that making sense? I see a couple of you have joined, so say hello. So what if standing up for yourself actually means choosing love over attempting to control your partner's opinion of you? You know, choosing love of yourself, right? Like choosing to believe that you are good, even if you're imperfect, even if they see that you aren't perfect, right? And choosing to put love and honesty at the center of your relationship, right? Instead of just trying to keep his opinion of you high. That's so often why we're defending, right? Is we just want their opinion of us to be good. So we defend ourselves and try to show that we're good. Right? But what if instead we just put love and honesty at the center of our relationship, right? Instead of like needing his approval, needing his opinion to be high. And that is strength, right? You don't need to defend or correct his opinion of you if you have a great opinion of yourself, right? Standing up for yourself and being strong actually means being open to the ways that they could be right, that your partner in his not so niceness, in his critical vision, could actually be right about you in a small way, and then learning from that. So if you sometimes feel touchy, right, or take things personally, or feel easily hurt, which most of us do, right, at some times, or if your partner just tends to be pretty critical or has these bouts of time when he is critical towards you, your first work is really to learn to feel really good about yourself, to feel better and better about who you are, to fully approve of yourself. And that's, you know, that's a substantial task, right? That's a substantial growth point for many of us. And I'm not going to go into too much depth. You know, I've talked a lot about this in other places about learning how to feel really good about who you are. And certainly, you know, you can find all sorts of resources on that in my blog posts and all my materials. And it's, you know, if you ever feel like you need some serious one-on-one help with that, I am here for you. So just reach out. I love helping people feel super strong and confident in who they are. But I want to offer just right now, I want to offer just like this little new way of standing up for yourself and standing up for love in your relationship. So when you hear stinging words, right, like critical words from your partner, the first thing to do, right, the most important thing to do is kind of root yourself in remembering that you love this human being right here, who you are. This is maybe the hardest one to do, but to come back to believing in you, and then be willing to consider what's being said about you, what your partner might be saying about you, could be true about you. So to be a little bit more specific, I'll kind of give you an example, and you can just kind of put yourself, I'm going to talk about myself, and you can just imagine putting yourself into this position. So let this be like a little exercise for you. So actually right now, think about like, what's the worst someone could say about you? And if you're watching, you could like put it in the comments. I always love when you guys actually interact here. So what's the worst someone could say about you? What's the worst thing someone could say about you? That came out funny. Like what would really sting? Write it in the comments. I could tell you a bunch of things, like just as an example. For me, like if my partner said you're like lame or you're selfish, that one I wouldn't want to, like I wouldn't really like hearing that. So if my partner were to say, you're so selfish or something like that, instead of saying, which is what many of us do, and certainly I've been there, like, no, you're the one who's selfish, right? Like tit for tat, retaliating. or just sort of defensive behavior. No, I'm not. You are. Instead of doing that, what I could do is ask myself, am I sometimes selfish? Like, how might this actually be true? And when I pause and get really honest with myself, like really get honest with myself, I do see how this could be true, right? Like I am selfish. Like when, for example, I don't lock the door before bed and he stays up. And so he has to walk downstairs, our doors downstairs, and lock the front door, right? Or like when I don't bring up the firewood before bed and I leave it to him because I just want to go get cozy in my bed, right? That is me being a little selfish, right? And so I am okay, and this is what I want for you too. I am totally okay at looking at that in myself, right? At seeing how it could be true that I'm selfish. And I could probably list a whole like plethora of other ways that I'm selfish. But I'm okay with looking at that and admitting that to myself because I've got my own back. Like I love me no matter what. I approve of me in my imperfection, in my selfishness. And I'm also always open to feedback, right? So that I can grow even better, so that I can be even more who I want to be, right? So that's like it's a powerful ninja move, right? To be open to that. And then even more powerful, like to really disarm him instead of feed the fight, like we were talking about earlier, is like the ninja move there is to say something like, I could see it that way too. I am selfish sometimes. And even go as far as saying, thank you for pointing that out. That's helpful for me to look at in myself. Like that helps me get valuable information so that I can grow and learn to be less selfish because I want to be less selfish. Do you see what I'm doing there? Is this making sense? So agreeing with him in this way leaves nothing really for him to fight against, right? There's no war. Disarms that little war that was brewing. It disarms the war that a relationship can become. So can you see how strong that is? How that's not like doormat behavior? Like how when I do that, I'm standing up in love for myself and for what I most want in the world, which is a loving relationship, right? I'm not making him like the bad enemy for pointing out my weakness or my less than perfectness. I'm actually creating some peace, right? I'm actually creating connection, a place for connection and growth and better things to come instead, which of course is what I most want, right? So just to like review briefly, the super simple steps are really just like, if you hear a criticism, root yourself in remembering that you approve of yourself. You love this person that you are. And then be willing to consider, how what was said could be true about you. And then maybe even go as far as thanking your partner or acknowledging to your partner, like that's true and thank you for pointing that out. Make sense? So really, ultimately to wrap this up, develop a great opinion of yourself, most importantly, primarily, so that you can stop getting offended, right? And hurt and feeling bad, and be open to what your partner, sees about you, and so that you could grow into someone you love even more, someone that you are so proud to be. And of course, so that you can become a ninja at standing up for love and connection and growth in your marriage. So I hope this is helpful. I know it is kind of like a big concept. It's not like it's a little bit advanced. But you guys are super smart, and I'll be really curious to hear how this lands for you. So please comment, let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know your questions that come up. Let me know if it's like not making a lot of sense, or like it's actually triggering you, right? I'd be curious. I'd be really curious to hear what comes up for you. And if you try this over the holidays, like if your partner does get kind of irritable with you or says something that's not so nice, try this move, try this ninja move, and share what happened, like what the result of it was and how it felt. Please report in. We'll all learn from you, and yeah, and we're here to learn and grow and create much more happiness in our relationships. And that's what this is all about. So I hope you have a very happy holiday. I probably won't be on a live next week, and I will look forward to seeing you pretty soon and hearing from you in the group. And always feel free to reach out to me personally if I can help you in any way. All right, be well. Bye, friends.